Hey guys, welcome back. Continuing our series on Psycho-Cybernetics, we move on to Chapter 2, titled Discovering the Success Mechanism Within You. If you haven't watched the other videos I made on the first parts of the book, I highly recommend you go back and watch those now. They give a good intro into what we are diving into. Also, if you wouldn't mind dropping a like on this video, it really helps the YouTube algorithm so they push out more videos like this one. A good note while listening is I'm trying to keep these videos packed with information, so there are some what I deem to be irrelevant paragraphs that I'm leaving out, but as always, I recommend you pick up a copy of the book to have on your bookshelf. Okay, discovering the success mechanism within you. There are a couple of superfluous paragraphs, and then he says, every living thing has a built-in guidance system or goal-striving device put there by its creator to help it achieve its goal, which is, in broad terms, to live. In the simpler forms of life, the goal to live simply means physical survival for both the individual and the species. The built-in mechanism in animals is limited to finding food and shelter, avoiding or overcoming enemies and hazards, and procreation to ensure the survival of the species. In man, the goal to live means more than mere survival. For an animal to live simply means that certain physical needs must be met. Man has certain emotional and spiritual needs which animals do not have. Consequently, for man to live encompasses more than just physical survival and procreation of the species. It requires certain emotional and spiritual satisfactions as well. What he's saying here is that we as humans have greater needs beyond just the survival of our species. That's what differentiates us from animals. Our goals consist of more than just basic survival needs. But he goes on to say that animals naturally have a success instinct. Take, for example, the squirrel who instinctively gathers nuts for the winter, or the bird who flies to a warmer climate when the one it was born in begins to get cold. He points out that humans also have this success instinct, but on a deeper level. Animals cannot select their goals in the way humans can. This is because we as humans have creative imagination to visualize our goals. He goes on. You are not a machine, but new discoveries in the science of cybernetics all point to the conclusion that your physical brain and nervous system make up a servo mechanism which you use, and which operates very much like an electronic computer and a mechanical goal-seeking device. Your brain and nervous system constitute a goal-striving mechanism which operates automatically to achieve a certain goal, very much as a self-aiming torpedo or missile seeks out its target and steers its way to it. Your built-in servo mechanism functions as both as a guidance system to automatically steer you in the right direction to achieve certain goals or make correct responses to environment, and also as an electronic brain which can function automatically to solve problems, give you needed answers, and provide new ideas or inspiration. Okay, this is actually a very interesting comparison, and when I first read it, I immediately thought of a missile guided by radar. The concept being the missile's guidance system is locked onto a target. In the real world, an airplane. In the analogy, your goal. Uninterrupted, it will make it to its destination. Introduce chaff between the missile and the target, and the guidance system will try to lock onto one of the hundreds of pieces of chaff, and it will miss the original intended target. We can correlate the missile's guidance system as our subconscious mind or our success mechanism, and the chaff as our negative self-image that sabotages it. He goes on. The word cybernetics comes from the Greek word which means literally the steersman. The servo mechanisms are so constructed that they automatically steer their way to a goal, target, or answer. When we conceive of the human brain and nervous system as a form of servo mechanism operating in accordance with cybernetic principles, we gain a new insight into the why and wherefore of human behavior. I choose to call this new concept Psycho-Cybernetics. The principles of cybernetics as applied to the human brain. I must repeat, Psycho-Cybernetics does not say that man is a machine, rather that Rather, it says that man has a machine which he uses. Let us examine some of the similarities between mechanical servo mechanisms and the human brain. Servo mechanisms are divided into two general types. One, where the target, goal, or answer is known, and the objective is to reach it or accomplish it, and two, where the target or answer is not known, and the objective is to discover or locate it. The human brain and nervous system operates in both ways. An example of the first type is the self-guided torpedo or interceptor missile. The target or goal is known, an enemy ship or plane. The objective is to reach it. Such machines know the target they are shooting for. They must have some sort of propulsion system which propels them forward in the general direction of the target. They must be equipped with sense organs, radar, sonar, heat perceptors, which bring information from the target. These sense organs keep the machine informed when it's on correct course, positive feedback, and when it commits an error and gets off course, negative feedback. Okay, here he actually uses almost the same analogy that I just did a minute ago. He adds that he adds to it that it takes some form of propulsion to move towards the target. We can assume that this would be taking action towards a specific goal. The machine does not react or respond to positive feedback. It is doing the correct thing already and just keeps on doing what it's doing. There must be a corrective device, however, which will respond to negative feedback. When negative feedback informs the mechanism that it is off the beam, too far to the right, the corrective mechanism automatically causes the rudder to move so that it will steer the machine back to the left. If it overcorrects and heads too far to the left, the mistake is made known through negative feedback, and the corrective device moves the rudder so it will steer the machine back to the right. The torpedo accomplishes its goal by going forward, making errors, and continually correcting them. By a series of zigzags, it literally gropes its way to the target. I think this is an important side note here. The underlying takeaway in this last paragraph for me is that it's all about constant adjustment. Like, nothing is going to be perfect all the time. It just won't. We're going to have days when we're over the moon and days when we're down in the pits. And what we're attempting to do when we're changing our self-image is adjusting our constant more towards the productive, happy, enjoyable side, so that when we get a little off course, our subconscious mind will guide us back. He then goes on to talk about how what he calls an automatic mechanism takes over when we do a simple task such as picking up an object. We do not have to think to contract certain muscles and move our arm in the direction of the object, etc., until the task is completed. Instead, this happens automatically. We just need to decide and then take action. Our subconscious mind simply does the rest. It's like when we first learned to drive. At the start, there was a lot of zigzagging and overcorrection, but when we became proficient at it, things became so automatic that sometimes we completely forget that we're driving. How this relates to our personal growth is simple. If we have learned negative ways of thinking, our subconscious mind will produce negative results automatically because that's what has been stored or programmed. The next few paragraphs talk about how there seems to be a storehouse of infinite knowledge, how inventors have seemingly plucked ideas from the universal mind, and I find this to be a fascinating concept. The point here is that your success mechanism will work on a problem you give it, and it will use all of its available, everything that's available to it, including infinite intelligence. Ending out the chapter, he gives us some actionable steps to take that will help us begin to change. That is an important quality in a book like this, when it tells you not only about a beautiful destination, but also how to get there. Practice exercise number 1. The unhappy, failure-type personality cannot develop a new self-image by pure willpower or by arbitrarily deciding to. There must be some grounds, some justification, some reason for deciding that the old picture of self is in error and that a new picture is appropriate. You cannot merely imagine a new self-image unless you feel that it's based upon truth. Experience has shown that when a person does change his self-image, he has the feeling that, for one reason or another, he sees or realizes the truth about himself. The truth in this chapter can set you free of an old, inadequate self-image. If you read it often, think intently about the implications, and hammer home its truths to yourself. Science has now confirmed what philosophers, mystics, and other intuitive people have long declared. Every human being has been literally engineered for success by his creator. Every human being has access to a power greater than himself. This means you, as Emerson has said, there is no great and no small. If you were engineered for success and happiness, then the old picture of yourself as unworthy of happiness, of a person who was meant to fail, must be in error. Read this chapter through at least 3 times per week for the first 21 days. Study it and digest it. Look for examples in your experiences and the experiences of your friends which illustrate the creative mechanism in action. Memorize the following basic principles by which your success mechanism operates. You do not need to be an electronic engineer or a physicist to operate your own servo mechanism, any more than you have to be able to engineer an automobile in order to drive one, or become an electrical engineer in order to turn on the lights in your room. You do need to be familiar with the following, however, because having memorized them, you will throw new light on what is to follow. 1. Your built-in success mechanism must have a goal or target. This goal or target must be conceived of as already in existence now, either in actual or potential form. It operates by either 1. Steering you to a goal already in existence, or by 2. Discovering something already in existence. So this is number 1. He talks about how your goal or target must feel like it's in existence now. That's very important because if you look at it being sometime in the future, you're just reaffirming the present lack of whatever it is you're trying to attract, which causes you to continue to not have it. Next is 2. The automatic mechanism is teleological. That is, it operates or must be oriented to end results, goals. Do not be discouraged because the means whereby may not be apparent. It is the function of the automatic mechanism to supply the means whereby when you supply the goal. Think of it in terms of the end result, and the means whereby will often take care of themselves. He's saying here, don't worry about how something is going to happen. That's for your automatic mechanism, subconscious, to figure out, and quite frankly, is part of the fun. A lot of times we try to control or at least think of a way something will happen, but that's not our worry. It's only our concern. Our only concern is what we want. 3. Do not be afraid of making mistakes or of temporary failures. All servo mechanisms achieve a goal by negative feedback or by going forward, making mistakes, and immediately correcting course. Like I said earlier, we can't attain perfection. We can, however, adjust when we have negative feedback. It's not a big deal to fail if we move forward. 4. Skill learning of any kind is accomplished by trial and error, mentally correcting aim after an error until a successful motion, movement, or performance has been achieved. After that, further learning and continued success is accomplished by forgetting the past errors and remembering the successful response so that it can be imitated. In other words, don't dwell on past failures. Learn from them and move forward. When done enough times, we begin to develop our responses into more successful responses each time. Number 5, you must learn to trust your creative mechanism to do its work and not jam it by becoming too concerned or too anxious as to whether it will work or not, or by attempting to force it by too much conscious effort. You must let it work rather than make it work. This trust is necessary because your creative mechanism operates below the level of consciousness, and you cannot know what is going on beneath the surface. Moreover, its nature to operate spontaneously. Its nature is to operate spontaneously according to the present need. Therefore, you have no guarantees in advance. It comes into operation as you act and as you place a demand upon it by your actions. You must not wait to act until you have proof. You must act as if it is there, and it will come through. Do the thing, and you will have the power, said Emerson. So here he's basically saying that your subconscious mind works kind of behind the scenes. It will work for you. You don't have to force it to work for you. It just does. Now, I would add the caveat to this is that it works for you only based on your conscious beliefs that have become so ingrained into who you are. So if your beliefs are negative, it will work to bring you more negativity. That's why it's so important to be intentional about your thoughts and beliefs. There you have it, guys. Chapter 2 of Psycho-Cybernetics. I hope you enjoyed it. We have a better understanding of how our subconscious works, and we have some actionable steps to take. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe for more videos like this one. We'll be continuing our series on Psycho-Cybernetics, as well as adding some more books here in the near future. I will see you next time.